The banks are willing to give us more money than we need or should have. If you told me that we can only have the maximum gross margin we can have is $250 for the next 10 years, I'd say stop farming, and because our costs are in excess of that, labor, farm, machinery, land, building, and finance. We are a high beta and high volatility business, right? If Richelle had a manufacturing plant that had consistent sales and consistent earnings, but with high volatility, depending on crop revenue, that's way too tight.
Back to number one, what is a healthy gross margin on a per acre basis? When is the business structure webinar? How do we attend that? The link is in the chat. Click on the link, put your name in, and you'll get a notice to come to the next one. Thanks for asking that. And is that gross margin calculated based on total acres or cultivated acres? Richelle, what's a healthy gross margin?
Dean, you want to go on that? Dean loves his per acre.
Well, you like percentage though, and I
percentage.
like you too. And Dean,
Yeah.
Dean, why does Dean got to be that way all the time? You say what you believe.
Got the white hair, it's the wisdom. So
well, we don't always have to agree.
It's fair. Yeah.
Give you a percentage pitch.
Yeah. So on a percentage basis, like I said, the 60 to 65%, because obviously where you farm makes a difference on what your gross margin is going to be, but it also makes a difference on what your total costs are going to be. So if you farm somewhere north of the city, it's likely your gross margin per acre or on a percent basis is going to be higher, but then also your costs, just because the price of land, et cetera, up there, obviously it costs a lot more to put that crop in. On a specific number on a per acre basis, I guess, Dean, I'll let you weigh in on that. But to answer the second part of that question, just quickly.
Yeah, please.
The gross margin calculated on total acres or cultivated acres. I guess whatever you're putting expenses into, whatever, if it's those are going to be included. So I would say total acres that are being farmed.
Yeah, but not waste acres. So it's cultivated acres. Really what Richelle was getting at there is if you were an organic farm and you're only seeding 2/3 of your crop, we do it on all cultivated acres, whether they grew a crop or not. But on dry land, it's really just on cultivated acres that are not wasted.
Why don't we bring in a fancy agronomist like Mike to tell us what's good acres and bad acres and then factor that into our calculations?
On the gross margin question, it really is relative, and I'm not going to use that as a cop-out. But if you told me that we can only have the maximum gross margin we can have is $250 for the next 10 years, I'd say stop farming. And because our costs are in excess of that, labor, farm, machinery, land, building, and finance. But realistically, if we had clients with $500 gross margins, those are big. That's probably $750 gross revenue, $250 input costs for a $500 gross margin. There's lots of coin falling to the bottom line on that. But we judge when Richelle and Dan talk about benchmarking, it really is regionalized, right? So I wouldn't beat my buddies in La Flèche for growing 5 bushel lentils the last 3 years because of drought, and reward my guys in the Regina Plains, my guys and gals in the Regina Plains for growing 50+ bushel lentils. That was just area circumstances. What we do want to do is we want to compare them to each other and to themselves, field by field, to say what can we improve. It's not about making people feel bad. It's about the art of the possible and striving towards a goal of improving.
Right on. Well, we're getting really close to the top of the hour here. And, now that you guys are in agronomy, you can say it depends. That's a perfectly acceptable answer for any agronomist professionally. That's the first thing they learn. It depends. It does depend. Pastor says, thank you. Terry Unger, can you suggest what a healthy and an unhealthy debt servicing ratio would be, or is it a very farm-specific number? Richelle, quickly.
Yeah, that one's super quick and easy. Yeah, so Terry, to answer your question, banks are going to have probably a minimum about 1.2, 1.25 for a crop producer. So that means for every $1.25 you're generating on the farm, you have $1 of that for debt.
Go ahead, Richelle.
I would say that would be the minimum for the bank. We always, in which this will be touched on in the benchmarking episode next to come, we always push for 1.5, just to add a little bit more wiggle room on that side of things. So for every $1.50 you're making, you have $1 going to debt.
Yeah, I was just going to say the banks are willing to give us more money than we need or should have. And remember, we are a high beta and high volatility business, right? If Richelle had a manufacturing plant that had consistent sales and consistent earnings, then I'm fine pushing it to 1.25 or 1.2 or 1.1. But with high volatility, depending on crop revenue, 1.25 is skinny. That's way too tight. Get 1.5 or 2 to give yourselves a cautious buffer.